Hello everybody. Today's video is the second one in the series, which is basically going to cover everything you need to do to your bow when you first get it. Alright, so how I'm going to start this video is if you had bought a three-piece. Putting the three-piece bow together is very simple, but there's a couple things you generally want to follow. So to start, you have your riser, which has an alignment pin and the nut for your limb bolt, and that's on both sides. Now, on your limb, you're going to have the hole the limb bolt goes through and the hole the alignment pin slips into. So basically what you do is take your top limb, which they should be marked in one way or another. On this particular bow, the way it's curved right here is how you determine it's the top limb. So what you're going to do, you're going to align your alignment pin in, and then you're going to slip that on like that. It's a little tricky to do for the camera, but I'm just going to slip them together. Now this bow's pushing 20 years old, so if you see any marks on it, that's why. So, and then what you do is you take your limb bolt, you thread it in. Whatever you do, do not cross thread it. Make sure it goes in smoothly with no force. So what you want to do is you screw it in, and you run it down until it touches. Once it touches, all you have to do is just snug. No more than snug. You don't have to reef on them, really tighten them down, just snug. And then for the bottom limb, just repeating of the process. Get that alignment pin lined up, get your limb bolt in there. There it is. Just snug. And that's how you put your three-piece bow together. So the next thing you have to do once you get the bow together is you have to put your string on. Now what you'll notice is you'll have a small loop and a big loop. Now the reason for that is when you get your bow in front of you, the top limb is where the big loop's going to go. Now the reason for that is because you're going to slide the loop down over it. And then your bottom loop is small because it just goes right over the string grooves, and that's where it'll stay. And that is why you have a big loop and a small loop. So the next thing I'm going to show you, sorry for my head being cut off, is how to string the bow properly with a stringer. So this particular stringer has a pocket and a rubber piece on the other end. Now, what you want to do, take the pocket and you slip it over your bottom limb, making sure the string is properly seated in the string grooves. And then what you do, take the rubber piece, slide it over the other limb, slide it over the other limb, behind the string, so it pushes up on the string like that. Now what you do is you step inside the stringer, and then you pull up on the bow and you slide the string into the upper knot groove. So what you have is you have the string properly seated right there, and you have the string properly seated in your bottom groove. And that is how you string a bow. Alright, so I did the first part of this video with my Schaefer silver tip, and that was because it was a three-piece and I wanted to make sure I demonstrated how to put a three-piece together. The following parts of this video are going to be done with my longbow, and that is because I'm going to be putting a new shelf, new rest. I'm going to be moving the knocking point. I'm going to be adjusting the string. I just didn't want to do that to that bow. So basically, I'm going to be pretending I just got this bow and setting it up for you guys. Alright, so the first part we're going to cover is putting on your strike plate and your rest. In the video I'm just going to be using Velcro. Most likely, as I said in the previous video, your bow will come with some sort of rest and strike plate material, but if you don't, you can go and pick up some Velcro. You want to use the soft side. Alright, to start, it's a pretty simple process. You basically just cut out a section for your rest and you cut out a section for your strike plate, making it, so you like how it looks, obviously. So I will go ahead and start cutting away, and I'll be back when I have something laid out for you. Alright, so basically what I have here is I have a small section right there for the rest and a small section right here for the strike plate. Now it's kind of hard to see. Alright, so now the process of putting them on. You're going to want to clean this surface with some wiping alcohol or some soapy water to get all the oils and all the debris off of it. Put that towards the outer edge, like that. So you got your rest on. And then when you put your strike plate on, you want to make sure you have a bit of a, sorry about the lighting, I'm working on getting better lighting for my basement. But you want to make sure you have a small valley between your strike plate and your rest right there. That way the arrow has a nice groove to lay in. Alright, so now for the strike plate, work down here so you can see it. I'm going to do my best so you guys can see this. Wanting to leave that little channel right there. So as you can see, there's a little channel for the arrow to rest in right there. Alright, so the next thing we're going to cover is brace height. And brace height is the distance between the throat of the grip to the string. So this bow, I want it to be at 7.5 inches. So what you can do is either take a tape measure, or if you have a bow square like I do, you can use one of these, and you put it in the throat of the grip, and then you just read the measurement. So at the moment, we're not that far off. We are at 7.25. The way brace height is adjusted is either by shortening or lengthening the string. And how you do that is basically either by twisting it up or twisting it down. And basically what that means is if you need to increase your draw length or increase your brace height like I do, where I need to go from 7.25 to 7.5, I would shorten the string by adding twists. Versus if I needed to go from 7.75 to 7.5, I would take twists out of it, lengthening the string. Alright, so I have unstringed the bow and I have removed the bottom string loop from the bow. And what you're going to want to do is you're going to look at the string, and I need to go from 7.25 to 7.5, so I need to add twists. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to count how many times it turns, and I'm going to add 8 turns to the string. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And if that wasn't 8, I'm sorry. Okay, so put it back over the limb tip and you restring it. So now I have the bow strung back up. I know it's kind of hard to see, my bad on that. But basically you're just going to recheck your brace height. and I am at 7.5 inches. So that is where this bow calls for. So brace height is checked. So what I forgot to mention during this section of the video is that when you're setting your brace height, is that a string will stretch when you first get it. So when you first set your brace height, just be prepared for it to stretch, and you'll have to reset your brace height. And then eventually the string will settle and you shouldn't have to set your brace height anymore. But it's a good idea to keep an eye on it. Alright, so the next thing we're going to discuss is knot height. Now I happen to have a bow square to do this with, but if you don't have a bow square, you can eye it with an arrow, or you can use a piece of cardboard in place as a bow square. Now if you're using the piece of cardboard, basically all you need is you need to make sure A, it can go across the brace height and it has a right angle. Because basically what you're doing is the piece of cardboard will tell you basically where in line with the rest is, and then from there you move up. Alright, so adjusting your knot kite is very simple, and basically what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to put your brass knock on here. You can also tie them. There's plenty of videos on how to do that, and I will probably do one. Basically what you're going to want to do is using a bow square, or you can eye it with an arrow also. Bow squares are just a little easier and you get more precise. But you put your bow square on the string and you lower it down until this end just barely touches the shelf. And once you're at that point, you have your 0 mark, which is right here. And basically the 0 is in line with the shelf. Now for split fingered shooters, I have mine set at 1/2 inch, and then from there you're going to adjust. And for 3 under shooters, typically you start at 5/8 and go from there. Good starting place for split fingered shooting is a 1/2 inch, which is personally how I shoot. So that's where I'm going to set it. You want to make sure that the bottom of the knocking point is at the 1/2 inch. And then you don't need a pair of knocking pliers for this either, but they do make it easier to cinch the knocking point down. So once you have your basic knocking point set, you're going to want to shoot the bow. Now, don't be too picky when you're first starting, because your form's going to have a lot to do with how the arrow's flying. But usually, if your arrow's flying knock high, your knocking point's too high. And too low is kind of tricky because you kind of get a false knock high. So basically what happens if you're too low, typically the knock will actually bounce off the shelf and go knock high. So if you hear a loud bang against the shelf, typically you know you have a knock low situation. Alright guys, well those are the things I wanted to cover. It's just, you know, the first couple basic steps you need to do when you first get your bow, whether 3-piece, 1-piece. So that's going to be it for this week's video. If you liked it, hit the like button. If you have any comments for me, leave them. I love reading your guys' comments, whether they're suggestions, you know, how I can improve it. And as far as next week's video goes, guys, it's going to be basic form and, you know, just how to start shooting when you first get the bow, so hopefully you don't develop too many bad habits, which we all do eventually. So hope you guys liked it. See you next time.